We'll get there. Well, the fun just keeps coming at Fountain Street Church. On the heels of the controversial Louis Farrakhan, who was here the week before last. Now Laugh Fest is here. If you have a ticket, you can come back in tomorrow night, I believe, but you have to have a ticket. We're not open for free business. You got to pay for that. And then in the middle of the week, I mentioned Naomi Wolf, who will be here saying things that perhaps are less funny, but no less confounding. And that will be free. And on top of that, we have other news here at the church. My wonderful colleague, Matthew Cockram, has told us all that he's going to go back into hospital chaplaincy after working with us for 5 years. And so we're facing a future that's less distinct. And fortunately, I've got to say that we are a really strong bunch, a good church, and we're more than able to shoulder the winds of March in whatever form they arrive. And upon that strength I rely every week as I seek to follow the threads of hope and truth into the vast web that we all live in. And so as I say every week, may these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be found true in thy sight, thou who art my rock and my redeemer. Well, for some reason, I went to the website of the Nation of Islam, which is where Mr. Farrakhan leads, to see part of the lecture that I missed. But I made the mistake of starting it from the beginning. And I say it's a mistake because early in that, in the event itself, they asked me to say a few words of welcome, which I did. And so I saw myself. And, well, what can I say? I cringed. I was more than unhappy with my presence. Now, I know everybody feels this way. At the early service, I said, who's seen yourself on videotape? And a lot of hands went up, and who liked it? And every hand went down. So I know this is common. But when I see myself on tape and hear my voice as others hear it, when I'm in the shower, I have a wonderful baritone. On tape, I have a nasty tenor. When I'm gesturing, I look expressive and attractive. On tape, I look out of control and excessive. Of course, you've had the same experience, right? We all delude ourselves that we are a little prettier than perhaps is objectively true, and perhaps a little more appealing in other ways. Who of us does not stop at the door on the way out and knot the tie or tug on the... Not bad. And who of us in the shower doesn't admire our operatic skill? We have to believe this, because if we literally thought we looked the way we actually do look, we'd never leave the house. Am I right? Few of us are as comfortable with our reality as we would like to think we are. Let's face it, though. The truth itself is tough to take, not just the truth about us, the whole shebang. In a sense, we're like that scene in that movie, A Few Good Men, where the naive lawyer, Lieutenant Caffey, who looks a lot like Tom Cruise, is demanding of the grizzled old colonel, who looks a lot like Jack Nicholson, to tell the truth. And he famously answers, and you can even say it with me, "You can't handle the truth." See how deeply that's in our culture? And he's right. We can't handle it. The hard truth, the real truth, the truth about how we look and how we feel and how we seem to others. We got to cover it up a little bit, so we have to delude ourselves from time to time, or we wouldn't be able to function. And I understand that. But we often let that go from the necessary delusions that keep us going to the comforting delusions that keep us from growing. After a whole lot of drama and a whole fistful of miracles, Moses and the children of Israel have made it out of Egypt parted the Red Sea, killed the Pharaoh, started up a pillar of cloud. They've done all sorts of good stuff. And then they get to Mount Sinai, the place that they were promised to go. And Moses said, I'll be right back. And then he vanishes for 40 days. And the people are saying, okay. The leader went up on a mountain. Where is he? And they get impatient and frightened. And so they go to Moses' brother, Aaron, and says, we don't know what happened to this Moses guy. He led us out here, and now he's gone. Make us a golden calf. We'll worship that God because we can see that God. Now, Aaron should have known better. He is actually Moses' big brother, but he's outnumbered. Thousands of Israelites, one Aaron. You see what I mean? So he says, okay. Give me all your gold. And they fling all their gold at him, and he fashions the supposed golden calf. And then he says, let's have a party, says Aaron. It actually sounds more formal than that, but that's what they did. They had a party, the singing and the dancing part. In fact, when Moses finally does come down from the mountain, and he does, he hears the sound and realizes they're not having a battle. They're not praising God. They're having a party. They're singing and dancing. That part it actually says in the Torah. And of course, since you all remember Charlton Heston, or if you don't remember Charlton Heston, you remember other versions. It comes down the mountain, and he's got these 2 tablets, and he takes them and he flings them, and they scatter into 100,000 bits. And then he gets really angry at the Israelites for doing the one baddest thing they could do, which was to worship something that wasn't God. And so he says, Moses says, who stands with God and me? And sure enough, all the Levites come over to him, the Levites being his tribe. And he tells them all, go slaughter every one of the Israelites that worshiped the false god. And the Torah says 3,000 died that day. In other words, it was not the right thing to do for the Israelites. But the fun part of the story, if there's a fun part here, it's how Aaron explains himself. Because Moses goes to Aaron and says, so what happened? That's not what he says in the Hebrew, but that's close. And he says, well, you were gone a long time. They were getting restless. They didn't know if you were coming back. They asked me to do something about it. So I said, give me all your gold. And I got it all, and I threw it all in the fire, and out of the fire came the calf. Sure. What a weasel. Moses. So Aaron is fooling himself just as the children of Israel. We're talking about delusions. And the delusion that Aaron gives himself, that he's not responsible. We can't handle the truth, friends. Even when it's staring us right in the face, even with Moses and his fiery eyes looking right at you, we come up with a weaselly way out. We can't handle the truth. It's always inconvenient, as Al Gore would say. But of course, today, we don't have Moses and fire and things like that to make us face the truth. We have other ways that force us to face our inconvenient, unwelcome truth. Anyone here ever have a child that came to you and say, where did I come from? There's no getting around that question. You can weasel for a little while like Aaron, but eventually they're going to want to know what they want to know. You know the story of the emperor who had no clothes? Who is it who points out that the emperor has no clothes? But children. Children are voices of the truth. Not that they know it, but they demand it. And I understand that. I think it was G.K. Chesterton who observed once that children, being innocent, demand justice, while adults, being sinners, want mercy. We're all sinners in that sense that we all want mercy, but children have no interest in mercy. They want the truth. But we can't handle the truth. When they ask us hard questions about God and sex, about right and wrong, they're not asking us why we are not just. They're not asking for our rationalizations. They're demanding us that we explain why we should do it. And of course, when children ask us those questions, all our delusions become self-evident, don't they? We know we've been fooling them. We've all had the Easter Bunny conversation at least once. We can't handle the truth. We can't handle it when it comes at us straight out of a child's mouth or down off of Mount Sinai. So we prefer it come in angles, off-center. That's what Emily Dickinson said. She said, tell the truth, but tell it slant. So it sneaks in and doesn't completely blow us away.